Hey guys, a slight change of plans. Master Avengers Theatre will not be on the Moonbase 2 RSS feed anymore. What this means is we are keeping Moonbase just purely Transformers podcast, and anything that's on that RSS feed is just going to be Transformers related. So Master Prime Theatre will be on the Moonbase 2 RSS feed. However, the Master Avengers Theatre, you may wonder what is happening. Well, I'm going to be putting it here on YouTube. And once I get someone or find a cool image, I will put it onto the video so you can listen to it through YouTube here, or below here, or wherever the bar happens to be. There will be a link to a place you can download the MP3 file, so you can then listen to it on your MP3 players, your iPod wads, or any of your crazy listening devices you have out there. So you have that option. Oh, one thing to mention, if I don't know how long these links last, but if it does happen to vanish and it's not there, and you want to listen to it and you don't want to have to listen to this entire video, because this whole video will be the podcast, then contact me in like the messages below here, and just go, yo Andy, can you hook me up? And I can be like, sure, I can hook you up, dog. I'm hella street. You can also hopefully find it on the Nerdsphere podcast, or the Nerdsphere area, which there will be a link here below the video as well. So you have a couple of options, but if you're a YouTube subscriber, you will probably find the easiest thing to do is you will see the video pop up and you can go, oh, I can go grab a new episode. Or if you subscribe to the Nerdsphere, which you should be anyway, you can go to there. And I'll probably be mentioning when we get a show done on Moonbase 2 podcast anyway. So, you have a couple of options here to do what you will. So, there won't be an image for the rest of this video because, like I say, I haven't got one of me as drawn as Old Snake, or looking like Old Snake, and Mikey looking like what I want Mikey to look like, a shillelagh lad. But this is episode 2. I also have put a link down at the bottom for episode 1, in case you haven't listened to it. So today we will be talking about Thor the Mighty, which is episode 2. Remember that this is going in technically chronological order, not in the TV schedule, because the micro episodes technically came first and then they were rejigged into these shorter episodes and were made episode 3 to 8 or something like that. So we're going chronological order. So the next one after Thor the Mighty will be Meet Captain America, I think. Either way, we will be recording that this week, and hopefully it will be coming up here on YouTube on either Thursday or Friday, depending on how quickly I can edit the files together and make it sound all neat and tidy. So, thank you guys. I hope you enjoy. I really do. And listen to the wonders that we have to talk about. I hope you really enjoy. Please leave your comments below. I always appreciate feedback, especially on these kind of things. And yeah, enjoy the podcast. And enjoy Avengers, because that's a hella good show. But I'm sure you already knew that. Podcast time! Woo!
Greetings, friends, and welcome to another episode of
Master Avengers Theatre! With your heroes, Old Snake, Cobra Commander TFW, and his sidekick, Shillelagh Lad, Mikey G. Wolfie 3. Hello and welcome to the second episode of Master Avengers Theatre. I am, of course, Old Snake, Cobra Commander TFW, or Andy, and I am joined, as ever, well, technically this is the first time, but I am joined by my lovely sidekick, Shillelagh Lad, Mikey G. Wolf 3v3, or 2. How you doing, Mikey?
Shillelagh Lad speaks only in Irish colloquialisms.
Well, you need to stop. I know you're doing it right now, but stop.
Shillelagh Lad also speaks in the third person.
It was fun trying to figure out those very weird superhero names.
Yeah, sounded like it.
So somehow Shillelagh Lad came into my head, and I imagined you in a green lycra suit with a large twig in your hand, smacking people over the head until the brains kind of caved in, screaming Shillelagh.
I was at the airport and they were selling them, and I was very
Really?
Yes, they
Oh
were selling
man.
them. I was tempted to buy it mostly because you won't let me bring a lot of stuff on a plane, but this is a very heavy piece of very thick, strong wood that I could use to hit people quite heavily with. This
Yeah.
could kill someone.
That's
I was tempted to buy it just to say I did it.
it's like you knew I was thinking about calling you
Plus,
Shillelagh Lad.
plus, I will say the words Shillelagh Lad do sound slightly more awesome with the Avengers theme playing in the background.
Yes, it came together quite well.
Yes.
But we are also joined by our special guest. She is the loony Loki lass. She is also known as the Princess of Plastic Crack. She is Nicole.
Hi.
Hey, Nicole,
I
you fiddling around with
so
your microphone there?
oh did I?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Ruining
Did
the
I
show
hit it?
already.
I'm, I ruined the show with the time that you invited me on to do it. So
Yeah, it's true.
in all fairness, it's your fault.
Thank you. Thanks. So,
Hmm.
how you doing, Nicole?
A-okay.
Sweet. Well, I will ask you first. What do you think? What your thoughts are of Avengers, and what your basic thoughts were of this episode, which is, for those that don't know, Thor the Mighty. And then we will ask Mikey because I haven't asked his. I'm sure everybody knows his opinions on
Mikey, what are
Avengers.
your opinions of Avengers? You've kept it to yourself for so long.
Yeah, but I feel people should at least if people just wanted to listen to the Master Avengers things, they could go. I don't know what Mikey thinks so of season one. So Nicole,
I
what
hate
did
it.
Nicole of Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes season one specifically? What do you think of it?
It's amazing. It's probably the best cartoon that is on TV. I mean, from the beginning, you get to know these characters and their origin stories and what they're about, and then it just takes off when they come together as a group and they interact together. And yeah, the story writing's great, the art is great. It's just fun. I love it.
And what did you think of this episode specifically? Because there is a reason why I brought you on for this episode.
Of course, there's a reason why you brought me on. No, Thor the Mighty is great because it has all the main characters Thor in Thor's, Marvel history, not just Marvel history, but also the theology of him. I mean, you've got Loki in it, of course. You've got the Warriors 3. You've got mentions of like the Rainbow Bridge. I mean, and the Frost Giants, and yeah, it's just everything you want to see in a Thor
Hmm.
story. So yeah, it's got everything in it. Of course, it's great.
Uh, and
Loki.
and
That's all
Loki.
you have to say.
Yeah. Well, that's why I called you Looney Loki lass. You know.
Looney Loki lass.
Yeah, it's a bit of a
Yes.
tongue twister to say it quick, but uh,
Triple L.
yeah, Triple L. Mikey, give us your thoughts specifically on season one of Avengers, and of course this episode, just as a brief oversight or
Um,
overview, rather.
the season one of Avengers, I actually started watching it after I started watching Young Justice.
Oh wow,
Um, yeah.
that must have been interesting to see the differences there.
Well, yeah, Young Justice I started watching because of the animation style. It made me go, "Oh wow, Justice League is back."
Hmm.
Honest God, I thought it was going to be a new spin-off from Justice League.
We all did.
Yes,
Hmm.
it was not.
It really wasn't.
No.
Despite having one of my favorite cartoon creators on it, it was not.
Bruce Tim.
Greg Reisman.
Oh, okay,
Yes, Bruce Timm. If Bruce Timm was in it, it would just be lesbians. Lesbians, the cartoon show.
that's fine.
Don't I? Bruce Timm is a fine, talented man, and
Well,
he did something recently that made me really excited, but I cannot for life of me remember what it is. Um,
wow.
while I subtly covered that up, I will point out that Bruce Timm is obsessed with making cartoon characters lesbians, and we respect him.
Hmm. You have to.
You do not badmouth Bruce Timm with me around, sir.
Oh no, that's
And then I went to Avengers season one, and I think basically I heard about the micro episodes, and I watched Hulk versus the World.
fine.
Obviously, well, I've never made that a secret of who my favorite Marvel hero is.
No, it's why I'm really glad that you are my partner on the show because it makes choosing a special guest for actually makes next week's episode of choosing a special guest incredibly difficult because I already have a Hulk expert. It's like, well, who else do I get on?
Get Simon Williams.
Maybe.
Oh, that would be interesting. Um, but so I came on with Hulk versus World, and I was really enjoying that. A whole new introduction to the concept of the Hulk for me. then it led into me doing some more comic book reading, blah 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 blah, and then I started getting onto episodes like this, and it was like, oh, I have no idea what any of this actually was, but it's already huge to me,
Mm.
and just yeah, it's a monster of a show. I mean, it combines the single episode format with the overarching storyline perfectly. Things are connected in this show that really don't seem like they should be connected, but they all join up perfectly at the end of it all. And it's just excellent. It's just as an entity, it's a show that just draws you in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Um, just I have very few complaints. I can't really think of a bum note in season one.
Well, what about this episode specifically then? What did you think of this episode of Thor the Mighty? Obviously, briefly, as we're going to get into it
Yeah.
very soon.
This episode was my introduction to Thor. I saw this just before I saw the movie. To be honest, I'd avoided Thor for years because I foolishly thought that it's just going to be a joke character that they write where he's super strong and says things in a funny way. Ha 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 ha.
Mm.
And this was the introduction to mythology and the writing for Thor and the world they build up in this very brief episode because was enough to sort of get me really interested in him. Don't know any of his trades yet, but I do plan on picking some up. Although I know Journey into Mystery will be high up on the list.
Not really a Thor trade, but yeah.
It's the Thor world. It's the Asgard world. And Mighty Thor, the most recent run of that, was supposed to be good.
So I still need to pick those two trades though.
Once I've got a couple of those out of the way, I'll start working backwards basically. And it's just it took a character I had no interest in and made him one of my favorite in the show.
Mm.
Plus, it is, in my opinion, the most significant plot episode in this entire character introduction arc.
Definitely, yeah.
Every single one has a bit of character arc, has a bit of wider arc story into it because it's all building up to Breakout. But this episode is the only one that matters for the rest of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I would agree. It's definitely the episode that sets up everything else that happens from this point on, which is weird because this is episode 2 and the effects have felt to episode the last 3-parter. Yeah, so that's what 24? Yeah, 24, 25, 26.
Yeah, 24 to 26.
So we basically get the start of the end at 26, and this all reverberates from this very first episode, which is crazy. This wasn't my introduction to Thor, because I had seen Thor back in the Hulk 90s cartoon, where Hulk fought Thor, and it was not... It was done like a 90s cartoon. If anybody remembers the 60s cartoon of Thor, and how he was a bit 60s... it was a very similar feeling to how he was in that Hulk cartoon, and from that point on I was like, well, who cares about Thor? I read only bits of him from the Ultimates and still didn't really care. And then what was it? I think I watched this episode and I was like, this is fairly interesting. I actually like this. And then I watched the Thor movie and became a big fan of Thor. I was like, wow, this is really interesting. And then watched Hulk versus Thor, the actual animated movie, and was like, wow, this is pretty badass. And obviously I've started reading the comics and become quite a fan of Thor.
You've read almost the whole lineup, it seems.
Well, yeah, I mean, all of J. Michael Straczynski stuff, and then almost up to modern day. Because, like I say, I've got 3 trades basically, and then I'm all caught up. So I have gone deep into Thor, and I've enjoyed him. He's a fun character, and I like the mythos behind him. I think that's what really draws me towards him. He's got all that kind of cool stuff.
I actually, when I was younger, studied Norse mythology, and that's where I was introduced to Thor. And I really never got to read Thor until probably a few years back. So
yeah, it's so I like Thor. It's good. I suppose we'll start off with the episode then, because why not? We've all given our thoughts now. We start off in New York Harbor because everything important in Marvel usually takes place in New York. That's not a lie either. There are a lot of heroes that make their home in New York, uh, which is, fair enough. We head to the New York Harbor where we meet the Wrecking Crew. Don't ask me to name them all because I know one's called Wrecker, one's called Thunderball, one calls Bulldozer, and then there's the other guy who I can't remember. The
Then
guy
there's
with
Maud.
basically the cowlick hairstyle, the blondie. It's like whatever. They are stealing from Stark Industries' boat that's there. They're after a gamma emitter for their boss, as they call him, who we'll find out who it is later. But I'm sure if you're a comic person, you probably know who it is already. And if you've seen this episode, well, it's no surprise who it is. Hey, guess what? The police show up because they're stealing stuff, and what a surprise. Jane Foster, who is a paramedic driving an ambulance, gets called in as a code blue, which is apparently a supervillain code. And her co-pilot, we'll call him, is he seems like he's new on the job. He's a bit green. He's
He's
a bit
very
like,
green.
yeah. What's a code blue? So the police are up there and trying to stop the Wrecking Crew, and they're not doing, they're not doing a good job against them. They're kind of getting battered about kind of horrendously. Jane arrives on the scene and tries to give first aid to the poor beaten down policeman, and her co-pilot is like, "Yeah, f that. I'm just gonna hide in here, thanks." Thunderball, being the physicist of the Wrecking Crew group, which is weird because he's just a generic thug, but he is a physicist. Decides that, hey, why not try out this little weird gamma emitter thing on these poor knocked out policemen on Jane Foster. Just about as he's about to let rip and shoot it off, Mjolnir, or however you like to say his hammer, flies into the scene, knocking the gun out of his hands and sending him flying back. Of course, the God of Thunder, Thor, has arrived on the scene to stop evil, because that's what he does. Having little issue with them, at least at first. We have some quite good action scenes of him like beating the crap out of them and them trying to drop giant crates on him and whatnot. The Wrecking Crew appear to have the upper hand at one point when they drop the crate on him. They don't. He just kind of flicks that off and knocks the rest of the Wrecking Crew out, bar Wrecker himself, who holds Jane hostage. And Thor isn't desperately pleased with this lack of honor. And he's like, well, do you have no honor? And he's like, nope, absolutely not. So it's like, well, you'll probably be used to rear attacks or attacks from behind. And of course, his hammer flies towards the back of his head, knocking him out. So he's able to save Jane. Thor asks Jane, hey, why are you risking your life? You don't have any armor. You got no powers. You got no weapons. Why are you out here risking your life? And, she basically explains why she does it, because she's a paramedic. She's there to help people. And she introduces herself as like, hey, I'm Jane Foster. What's up? And, at this first introduction, Thor seems a little bit smitten with her. He's like, wow, okay. He's definitely... You can tell from just this very small scene that he can appreciate someone who risks their own life, or at least this attractive lady who risks her own life without anything to protect her, just because it's what she feels she has to do. Kind of, I'm sure what he feels he has to do as well. A portal, however, breaks a little romantic moment open as Heimdall, who is obviously the guard of the Bifrost Bridge, the Rainbow Bridge, shouts to Thor and says, yo, Thor, Asgard is under attack and in danger. And Thor rushes off. So, Mr. Mikey, as this introduction section to this episode, I actually think it's the first micro episode. What did you think of it?
I think it's very well handled. It's a great build-up. I did love the cold blue and then in a straight face, super villain.
Yeah.
Really nice introduction to the basic two to Thor cast, Jane Foster and Thor, obviously, because they're the ones everyone who comes in from the movies will be expecting.
Yep.
I loved the fight scenes. Because it's something they do very well in this show is make it appear like characters like Thor and Hulk, you can knock them down, but they are very much not going to stay down.
Yes, which is how it should be. I think it's how you put tension in to actual fight scenes rather than just have. You could have had just a wrecking crew just like punching in Thor and Thor just stand there being like, "Pfft," that wouldn't be interesting at all.
No, so he gets knocked back, and it's like, are they strong enough? No, they are not.
Nope.
So yeah, really, really overall, really nice scene. It's too much, really there. Really nice scene. There's really not that much to comment on in this scene, based because it is very direct. It's a build up to combat scene and a very well handled combat scene. I like the idea of Mjolnir being used as a back attack. I liked it when you had the crowbar and the hammer clash.
Mm-hmm.
I actually remember looking at it, they're going, is he fighting Thor with a crowbar?
It is a magically
Yes,
enchanted crowbar.
I looked it up, and that's where the Wrecking Crew's power come from. In this, they're gamma mutants, by the sound of things.
I'm not entirely
Well-
sure about that. They do use gamma stuff later on,
Yeah.
as we find out, but I have to believe that they have some kind of magic woo-woo going on. I can't
Yeah,
believe that
but-
Avengers, the comic show, would really change too much of that.
But basically, he's got a magic crowbar because he got in the way of a spell meant for Loki, and then everyone else was holding the crowbar when they were struck by lightning.
Yeah.
That's how they got the powers.
Yep. They're Thor villains, which was good to see him actually fight.
Yeah, because I mean that's the strength of Avengers for me. It's bringing in characters I have no idea they existed.
Yeah.
It makes you want to go look them up more, see their history.
So just really, really fun for me this opening. Wish I had more to. That's the problem. One of the problems with this episode, in terms of commenting on it, is that the first two parts are pretty basic. They're an intro and a fight scene.
Mm.
So beyond saying that I love a really good fight scene and I really like stuff, it's just really like the overall feel. It's difficult for me to find things. I like the interaction between Thor and Jane
Yeah.
because it was just like, you really. You have nice legs. I mean, you.
No, is that Jane saying that to Thor?
No, it's like, you lovely. Stood up quite well, heroic. Yes, oh look, what a convenient portal. I have to go now. Oh look, I can look right down from here.
Yeah, it's almost like our conversation of Tara Strong that we just had, wasn't it, Mikey?
Yep. Thor was that guy.
Yeah, he was.
And it's something I quite like about him. He has this kind of goofy charm about him in this show, where it's just he is very old world, and he speaks and he acts in this very old world fashion, which in the modern way seems goofy, but he plays it so seriously, it's very charming. And
Trust me, Jane Foster likes it too.
Well,
all right.
Jane Foster owns the single and only known adamantium pelvis.
Destroyed. I don't know. Thor could be a tender lover.
Even if he's a tender lover, he'd still knock her through 7 buildings.
Perhaps, yeah.
I didn't mean young Jane. It's fine. It's fine. I died doing what I love.
Do you have anything else to say?
Really like Thor's design.
Yeah.
Because I like how they've given the cloak a sort of rolling the roll that causes it to stand up off his shoulders. It makes him look absolutely enormous.
Oh, he
beyond
is.
the fact
Yeah.
he is absolutely enormous. But it's a really good look, and I kind of wish they'd kept it. I don't know. I prefer I like the armored look he's got now, but I quite like this kind of. It's a bit more basic, and I tend to.
It's very
really,
Asgardian.
that's it. It's sort of more basic and like I'm an ancient god type than I'm wearing a bunch of armor and I'm about to hit you.
It was definitely a redesign of his original, slightly more original look.
Yeah.
It looked a little bit less like the helmet design was very more movie inspired, but it obviously didn't have the wings going off and
Yeah.
looking ridiculous, but it still had them and it made them work quite successfully.
Yep. I rambled quite a bit there. Basically, it was really fun scene.
All right, Nicole, what about you? Did you find the scene between Thor and Jane a little bit more believable than, say, in the movie where it just seemed to sprout out from nowhere?
I absolutely agree
Mm.
because in Earth's Mightiest Heroes, it starts off with Thor respecting her as a different type of warrior, and he has that respect for her, risking her life, even though she doesn't have like, the super strength or ability. He starts off with respect. He just doesn't go for a nice piece of ass, you know.
That damn fine piece of ass.
Well, he's
Even
had
though she
piece
is
of
a
ass for a
good-looking lady,
while.
it does help that she is a good-looking lady. But I think I believe this relationship over the movie verse, but I really I really like that interaction. But one thing I really liked about the scene is you get to see Mjolnir, I kind of almost like as a separate character, it's
In what sense?
the way that he just commands it. I mean, well, it doesn't really do commanding, but the way that it plays a part in the fight.
Mm.
Like you said, with the crowbar coming from behind, it's kind of like a little separate character, like his little sidekick.
I want to see
No.
the Mjolnir shorts now.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but I'm not sure I would describe it as a character.
Yeah.
But it's definitely more of an extension of Thor's body
Yeah.
than anything else, I would say.
I like how they've incorporated it into the cartoon. So I really so everything else Mikey pretty much took over, and I have to agree with what he has to say.
Yeah, definitely. It was a fun fight scene. It's a good introduction to Thor, but we get a lot more character building as we move on, actually. And I guess we should move on unless anyone has anything else they want to say.
Yep.
Okay.
No, I do have one thing.
Oh,
I
so
think
you do. You
Heimdall-
said no, but then you're like,
No,
yeah.
I was just thinking Heimdall must have had a really good shot of Jane looking down on her.
No. To be fair, he's been watching this whole time, so it's like, damn fat, nice work, Thor. Nice work.
I'm sure
tell.
Heimdall has looked in on many ladies because he stands
Yeah.
and can see everything. So
Yeah, actually, to be fair, Heimdall, his entire life is standing at a bridge watching out. He can never ever leave.
it's like he has the internet, but
Yeah, what else is he going to do, to be
Yeah.
blunt? He can watch any movie, he can read any book, as long as people read at a decent pace.
Mhm.
And so, you know what? I'm stuck here. Don't have a family. All my friends are off, fighting frost giants or wooing women. I'm gonna look at that woman masturbate.
because why not, right? What else is there to do? I've been here for a couple of centuries. Why not?
Oh.
But we head to Asgard as we move away from female masturbation. Where we find that Asgard's looking pretty safe and secure. Unfortunately, a giant cloud of snow, I'm guessing, floats in, and the frost giants attack. The frost giants, being the technical wizards as they are, decide to throw rocks. Yeah, I say that, but it's fairly successful. It breaks down and puts some holes in the walls. We get some quick shots of inside Asgard where there's another festival going on. Probably more debauchery
They
inside.
do like to party, these guys.
Yeah, totally. We get a quick shot of Hogan and Fandral, two of the Warriors three, as the rocks come flying in, and they stand up and like, hey, it's time to fight. Well, they don't say it, but you get that sense from the look on the face. We then cut to outside where I think it's Ymir, the Frost Giant King. Is that how you say it? Ymir?
Yep.
Yeah, he's not named in this episode, but he has a crown-shaped head, so I'm pretty sure that's Ymir. He starts attacking as well, and then we have a fairly fun and ingenious way of getting over a wall. We have the pole vaulting frost giant.
I love it.
Yeah. Who pole vaults up and slices the drawbridge down so it opens up so the frost giants are able to pour into the city of Asgard. And Loki is leading them, of course, because it's what Loki does. He loves leading frost giants.
I'm pole vaulting.
Yeah, well, I don't know if Loki loves to pole vault, but I'm sure he probably gave them the idea. Use that stick there and just like
Loki
flip
the
up there.
Olympian.
The Frost Giants surprisingly decide to start fucking up the city by, guess what, smashing it. What a shock. We then get a shot of Volstagg sitting and eating a turkey. He has a battle going on outside and looks a little bit angry that he needs to leave his turkey. So he goes and grabs it anyway, pulls off a leg and begins to eat as he must because he's Volstagg. Thor arrives on the scene. Well, not on the scene, sorry. He arrives on the Bifrost. And Heimdall tells him that, basically gives him the rundown. Yo, Frost Giants are attacking. This is obviously we know this, and we know he's already told Thor this, but because this is another micro episode beginning, they need to recap this. So it's a bit of a silly thing to do, but it's not a huge problem. He also tells him about briefly that Odin is near the Odin sleep, so he's weakened, and we also are told that why Heimdall isn't there helping. He is sworn to constantly look out and watch women masturbate. He says for honor, but whatever.
Oh, okay.
Thor decides to pick up his hammer and twiddle it around and fly off, saying he'll fall a frost giant in his name because he's nice like that, murder and whatnot. We see Balder running around and climbing up a frost giant, quite agile and whatnot, and stabs him in the eye. Unfortunately, this is a kid show, so the eye is perfectly intact when we see it again, but it probably hurt the frost giant. The Warriors 3 then take down another one with Volstagg jumping and sitting on one's face while the other two basically trip him over. Ymir comes in and unfortunately takes them down. Sif appears as well and gets smushed, unfortunately, by a big axe. She's fine though, but she's not doing too well, probably messed up her hair and whatnot. She's just had bad days. Thor saves her just in time before she gets super smushed and starts fighting the frost giants, because that's what Odin does. He's kind of what you see. He's not here to read the newspaper or whatever. He's here to fight some frost giants. While we see we see two ravens flying over the city. These are obviously the famous ravens of Odin. I can't remember what they're called, but I know they have specific names. Do you know what they are offhand, Nicole? Not that it really matters.
Yeah. The only raven I could think of is Ecol.
Yeah, that's
But that's not the right one.
No, that's Loki's.
Yeah.
As they fly into Odin's chamber, they start squawking at him, and obviously he can tell what they're saying because it's not out of the realms of logic because they are his birds, so it makes sense. Mythology, woo woo, it's fine. They've told him that Thor's arrived, and he's all happy, and. Things are being smashed down on Thor. He's getting smacked down and hit quite a few times. Thor flies up and he says the nay as he starts flinging around his lightning and whatnot. But just before he brings down the lightning, he's frozen in a giant block of ice, very briefly, granted, as he breaks free to only get whacked into a wall and then to again get beaten down by the giants. Ymir is about to eat him as he picks him up, while Thor regains his hammer and knocks the guy's tooth out, which is pretty fucking brutal, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he then finally calls down the lightning, knocking out the remaining frost giants, and as victory looks certain, Loki blasts him with big black magic, and he says, "Welcome home, brother." So, Nicole, what do you think to this introduction of Asgard, the Frost Giants, the Warriors 3, briefly, Balder, Sif, and Loki?
I like the brief introduction that they've done with Sif and the Warriors 3. You don't get to know their personalities, but you get to see them as warriors, so that's always a plus. I'm glad they included Sif. I do like her.
Yeah, I'm not sure about her design, though, in this.
Yeah, I kind of get used to it. But
She's got a very pointy head. Or chin, rather.
She's got a lot of points on her.
That's true. Wow, all right. Back to breasts already. Thanks, Nicole.
God. Anyways, I like the size that they have the frost giants. Because they're supposed to be really menacing, and it's not ridiculously huge. It's a good size, so I do like that. I like that the frost giants all have their individual looks, their individual characters. They didn't just use a standard look and just.
No, they could have done easily.
Yeah, they could have, but I like how each one of them has an individual look to them. I like how they had just like that little party at the beginning because those Asgardians they like to celebrate everything.
Oh yeah.
But the gnashing of the teeth, I still I know it's just a cartoon, but it still makes me cringe. No, I like a good fight, and this fight had everything in it. It showed both sides winning and losing, and the only thing is just like I kind of got they kind of went a little overboard with how strong Thor could be because he did get smashed by Frost Giant's foot, but then you're just like, oh yeah, he's a god, so it works.
Yeah.
The one thing I really liked in this series was the Raven's eye when they pulled away. I really liked that little series. It's just a few seconds, but I like that angle that they used in it. So
Yeah.
and the little flash of Odin. So yeah, I
Voiced
really
by
liked.
Clancy Brown as well,
Yeah, it did.
which is crazy. It's like Clancy Brown is not playing a bad guy in a show,
Well, Odin could be kind of a douchebag though.
but he's not.
He's not
He's not
the bad
outright
guy.
evil. Yeah.
That's true. So
Though again, as I mentioned on Moonbase, Spectacular Spider-Man, he played Gwen Stacy's dad, which I was like, huh, is he going to be a bad guy in the series? And he wasn't, which was weird. Do you have anything else you want to talk about though, Nicole? Here?
no, I just like the just one last thing. I like the effects that they've used for the lightning, at the end with the frost giants, getting struck down. I really like the little flashes that they have here and there. Yeah, great stuff. Loving it. Love a good fight.
Okay, Mr. Mikey, give us your thoughts on Asgard.
There were a lot of little elements to this I liked. I liked the introduction of the concept of what Heimdall was, and the fact that even in a situation where Asgard is under direct attack, he can't leave. You get an introduction to the Warriors 3. You get a little bit of sort of a very, very 2-second introduction to what Asgardians do when they're not fighting, which is watching dancing girls in skimpy tops, debauchery, and basically just enjoying life.
Yeah.
Really like the Frost Giants designs. I did find it rather amusing. It's just like 3 guys. When you find out later on, it's like it should be the entire army. Nope, just 3 guys.
It keeps changing every now and again because
Yep.
it did send more in, but it boils down to 3 at the end, which is odd.
I'm sure it was some. They merged.
I suppose that you could say that the ones that Boulder and the Warriors 3 took down maybe just stayed unconscious.
They're just lying on the ground with their eyes shut. Oh god!
Yeah, I don't want to do this.
Don't look at me. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I really enjoyed Thor in this one. He's got some really nice character moments. He has the "I say thee nay." I love that. There's a couple of lines Thor has that I love. My ultimate one is, "I would have words with thee, brother."
Oh, I would have words with thee.
When he says that, it's like,
it's on.
oh, you know what that sound is? That is the sound of your ass being beat.
Yeah.
I do love a good fight between the brothers.
But when he just says, "I say thee nay," it's just like, oh, presence. That sums up Thor in this. He has presence. And I love the fight with the Frost Giants because the other Asgardians, they're holding their own, but they're beginning to lose. And then he just shows up and it's game on. It's just like a giant pickaxe club thing versus a human-sized Mjolnir, and it seems to be a draw. He catches the sword. He gets crushed. He shatters the ice. It just something they're doing in Avengers now, in season 2, is in the last, I think, since Ultron Unlimited, is kind of emphasized the fact that this guy is not a pushover.
He's a god.
He is a god. He is one of the most powerful beings in existence.
That's why when they cloned him in Civil War and he went kind of crazy, nothing good came of it.
Yep. It's just like there's been a lot of ominous chanting music in Avengers of late.
Yes.
And that's something I like it when they emphasize it, and they kind of emphasize it here, because at no point do you think he can lose this. Because even when he's about to get his head bitten off, Just the guy, he'd probably just shoot out the back of the guy's skull.
Mm.
Just a really well organized fight with some nice little moments. And yeah, Odin. I liked Odin. Really liked the design. And it's Clancy Brown being a heroic character.
Yeah.
It was a little weird, I won't lie.
And this is Odin still with two eyes, and as both you and I have mentioned, I'm sure before on the show, he has to lose that eye to Surtur in this season of season 2.
Wouldn't it be nice if he did
Oh,
in a Surtur storyline?
Yeah, I'm
Wouldn't
sure
it be
that's
nice-
how he loses his eye originally, but I'm not entirely
It
sure.
wouldn't be nice if they had time to do that.
It would be, wouldn't it?
before they cancel it.
Yeah.
Burn in hell, Jeff. Burn.
Do you have anything else you want to mention though, Mikey?
No, most of my talking will be on the last section.
I can understand that. We've still got another section before the part that you really want to talk about.
Yeah.
You know.
But yeah, just really enjoyable. Just really, really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely, again, enjoyed this. I think Nicole was right. They got the size of the Frost Giants correct, because though I may like the Thor movie a lot, I wasn't too thrilled on how big the Frost Giants were.
Mhm.
I mean, they're giants. They're big, but they're not what I would call giant.
They were definitely tall.
Yeah, they were the tall giants. They were the Frost Talls.
They were like NBA players.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're big, but they're not. They're still not giant. So the size of these guys is what they're meant to be.
I really think they did a great job on the Frost Giants.
Yeah, they're not quite as colorful as they are in the comics. In the comics, they're a lot more tribal. They have a lot more brown furs on them and like tusks of, I don't know, what you'd guess would be woolly mammoths and stuff, and like rings going through the noses and stuff. That kind of really creepy tribal thing. But the design they've got here is still a very nice, interesting look they've got going for them. The fight was, as you all mentioned, good. I would have liked to have seen a bit more from the other cast members, but this is only a very brief introduction to them, so it's hard to have gotten all of the Thor cast basically to have their time. But yeah, it very well done, very enjoyable, and when he says "the nay," that really gets me happy. That's like one of my favorite Thor phrases. I love saying, and I
Thor
say
says
thee
ye nay, you are damn well saying nay.
Yeah, I have said that to some people online while playing Mass Effect 3. While I shoot them in the head, and I say to thee, nay! And then shoot them, and their head goes pop. Yeah, I know, I'm a nerd, whatever. But we move on. Loki, obviously, has just shot Thor. Thor's not too happy, and Loki blasts him again. And this time he continuously blasts him and shoots down a bridge. Thor tries to reason with him, saying that we used to be brothers, we could be again. Howie, Loki, stop being a prick. Loki's like, no, Odin's a liar, and for you siding with him, you deserve to die with him as well, or pay for joining with him. Thor basically hammers him then through a building, which looked like it probably hurt. Yeah. And Thor then hits him, or tries to hit him with a giant... Well, he hits him off the top of this building onto another bridge, and is about to hit him with another lightning bolt, where Loki avoids it by transforming his body into, I guess, moths or butterflies, which is kind of cool, because he's a
I think they're supposed
shapeshifter.
to be blackbirds, aren't they?
No.
Those are insects, definitely insects.
Yeah, they were a butterfly or something. They were definitely not birds.
Ah, okay.
Let's have a quick look.
I know,
Yep.
I need to go back on.
Yeah, moths, butterflies, something to that effect. So he turns into them and appears behind Thor as I try and refine my place in my notes. And yeah, basically juices up his hands with some more magic and slaps down on his collarbones, which brings Thor to his knees briefly. Thor again tries to reason with Loki, saying, I don't want to fight you. And again, this isn't getting through to Loki. But unfortunately, at this point, Loki is pretty much beaten. He's not got much left in him. Thor's not hit him too much, but the hits that he's done to him are enough to have weakened him. All Loki's got going now is his mouth, as he throws a couple more magic bolts at Thor, and Thor's just kind of swatting them away with his hammer. Loki is then brought to Odin's chamber room in chains with the rest of the main Thor cast, the Warriors 3, Sif, Balder, I can't remember if there's anyone else. I don't think there is. And Odin is obviously not too pleased, but it's weird in the way he's dealing with Loki. He's still dealing with him like, oh, why did you break my favorite pot, my silly son? He's not really taking this too. He's taking this seriously, but not probably as seriously as he should be. It's like, you brought the frost giants in and you tried to kill me. What were you thinking? There wasn't too much anger in him until Loki, being Loki, decides to taunt Odin and said he's had enough of his lies and working with these weaklings, and he's sick of the arrogance, and he should be king because he's not his father. Blah blah blah. The usual Loki. I hate you. You're a bastard. Which technically, as Nicole pointed out, he is sometimes. Odin obviously has had enough of Loki's woo woo, and exiles him to the Isle of Silence. So he's whooshed away or spirited away, whatever you want. And we see the Isle of Silence, which is devoid of color, which is interesting and a good way to visually show what this place is like. Not just from an audio standpoint, because hey, guess what? The Isle of Silence has no sound. And it's got these really cool bits in black and white again, where a raven lands and squawks, and there's no sound. Loki tries to talk and he grasps his throat and he says no, but there's nothing there. I like that scene. That was quite cool the way they'd done that. We then get another explanation from Odin as he tells Thor what the Odin sleep is and tells us what the Odin sleep is. And if you don't know, the Odin sleep is where Odin every year has to go to sleep to regain his power. It's weird. He actually mentions he does it so that Asgard can live, but it's more like so he can defend it the rest of the year, is how I always took it, rather than he needs to do it to actually live, because Odin's died a couple of times in the comics, and that would suggest that Asgard would be no more, but, you know, whatever. Thor wishes to tend to Midgard, saying that, hey, there are some pretty messed up stuff going on Midgard recently. There's, like, new dangers popping up all the time, and I need to keep an eye on it. I need to do this myself. Odin, being Odin, is he's not too fussed really. He mentions that Jane. He mentions Jane. The only reason he wants to do is because Jane's down there. Thor gets really angry at this point and basically says that he thinks Odin's controlling him and controlling everybody the way he's controlled him all the time, and leaves Midgard. So, with the apprehension and battle of Loki and the, I don't want to say exile, but Thor leaving in a huff, basically. Mikey, what do you think of that, of this little segment we've had?
I really like the interaction between Thor and Loki. It's become what we could consider very classic, but to me it was very, very fresh.
Mm.
I liked that Thor was constantly trying to stop it. It wasn't about the fight. It wasn't about a villain taking down a monster. It was a guy fighting his brother, and he just doesn't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to fight you. Can we just stop? Why? And I liked it when he turned around and said, "Oh, we've been friends for years, and we've been together for all this time, and why can't we just go back to that?" Just like, you could. This must have happened before, so he must have been at a stage where it's like, I know full well that it's never going to go back. But then again, I mean, has it happened before? I mean, is this supposed to be the first time Loki's turned?
I can't imagine it is, because he mentions
Yeah.
that this is no. Odin mentions that this is no game, suggesting almost that things Loki has done prior have been games. I guess that may just be me looking a bit too much at it, though. I don't know.
It was also a great fight scene between the two of them, because it's playing on the two strengths that physically, Loki cannot compare.
No.
Thor's in the strictest sense not an Asgardian, because he's half Asgardian, half planet, for want of a better term, because
Yeah, that's true.
His mother's Gaia, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
That's why he is so strong. That's why he's capable of like throwing mountains and lifting billions of tons and shattering moons and things.
Yeah.
Because he's not technically a true Asgardian.
And he has a bit of the Odin Force bestowed upon him through Mjolnir.
So, in just power and skill, he doesn't compare. But Loki's a wizard. He uses magic, and it's just that's how he holds his own. And I really liked how they did that. And plus it's always nice thematically to see sort of almost two opposites combine, just like the long range fighter and the close range fighter. And it just really, really worked. I also liked towards the end of the fight when it's Loki's giving the impression that he's starting to lose it, just like I've had it, I'm having it, oh my brain's gone, and Thor is just like he's having none of it.
Yeah.
He gotten to the stage in the fight where he's bringing this to an end his way. He thinks. Um,
Hmm.
and the lead up, not the lead up, the relationship between Loki and Odin was very, very well summarized here.
Yes, definitely.
Odin is the father who is disappointed in his son, but he's trying to give him a chance. He's trying to be fair, and Loki is the petulant child who just didn't get the toys he wanted. Ultimately, I mean, Loki and Odin. Odin may not be the kindest person in the world, but he is not evil. He would not treat he for all indications have been that he treated Loki as a son,
Yeah.
and Loki got basically trapped in one aspect of what he is. It sometimes feels like that. He got
Yeah.
obsessed with the fact that he is some sort of miniature frost giant, basically.
There's obviously a bit more to it
Yeah,
than that, but yeah.
yeah, but I'm trying to summarize it.
Oh, totally.
You're the Thor expert. You can go into stuff as much as you want.
No. I would agree that that is how it's summarized here. I mean, we haven't had quite as much friction between those two as there had been prior. Like the suggestion that the only reason Odin kept him was to ensure peace between frost giants, Asgardians, and other really bad stuff that's happened.
Yeah, they've got a history, and I just like he's in a situation where he can't stand up, he can't fight, he's surrounded, and he's just like, right, screw it, y'all suck, I'm fantastic, I should be king, I should have the hammer, I should have the Odin force, you should all get stuffed, I'm great. And when Odin stands up and just not calls for enough, it's like, oh, you just pissed off the wrong guy.
Yeah, you pissed off Clancy Brown.
Yeah, Clancy Brown is a big man.
Oh yeah.
So just really, really nice scene. And then you follow that up with Thor and Odin, which I thought was excellent. Absolutely excellent. It was very well done with Thor essentially shirking the responsibilities he's had his whole life for saying that I have someplace else to be because I want to be there. He's got his reasons for being there. They're very good reasons, but it's not technically his job, it's his choice. His father, who's been spying over him and watching him, and is introduced he'd been watching him and saying, no, 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 this is your job, this is where you belong. And Thor makes this great argument that they need me because the world's changing. Superpowered individuals are showing up, they're not ready for it. And Odin, oh, they're all they're a bit tougher than you think, aren't they? And then Thor snaps at him, and it's a really nice father son relationship. You get the feeling like they're not the closest family in the world. And I just really, really like that. And then Thor just barges out by saying, "If I have to be here, I will be. But as long as it's my choice, I don't really want to be around you." And I loved it when he just stormed off.
Yeah.
Plus, I did like the summation of the Odin fleet because, apart from the fact it introduces you to the concept, you get a time frame for the series. Because by the end of the series, they're back to another cycle where Odin's asleep. So, kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, all in all, just really liked it.
Do you have anything else you want to drop?
I want magic birds.
All right, yeah. I hear they can tell the future. I think one of them tells the future, and one of them is pure
I looked
knowledge.
this up. I looked this up while you guys were
And
talking.
one of them tell the lottery numbers?
Yeah, the
Maybe.
two ravens are Hugin and Munin.
There you
which
go.
mean thought
Hugin and
memory.
Munin?
Yeah, they're thought and memory.
Oh, there you go. So you wouldn't need to remember anything, Mikey. You could have one of your birds do it for you. Very useful in a test, I would imagine.
Well, they're also like Odin's messengers.
Yeah.
So they report back to him what's going on Earth.
There you go. Nicole, this is the introduction of Loki for you. So, as the loony Loki lass, what did you think of this segment and Loki? Loki portrayed he is not Avengers Loki,
No, he's
the
not.
movie. But what do you think of this Loki?
He first of all loved the voice actor.
Yeah,
Great voice.
he's really good.
Yes.
He's a really good choice for Loki.
As soon as he opened up his mouth, it's like, whoo, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I like the sequence because it's kind of like a reality show with a dysfunctional family who are trying to make things work out, but
Are you
there's
saying
just
this
too
is the
many.
Osbournes?
Well, because there's just too many different opinions, and everyone wants to be the right one, and so in the way to be right, they just fight it out.
Gaia, fucking hell, Gaia.
But of course, like I said, I've always liked a good Thor Loki fight.
Mm.
You know, Loki's always going to get his pretty much his ass handed to him in the end when it comes to Thor, but he puts up a good fight because the one thing that Loki has is his strength, and his probably biggest weakness is his mouth.
Mm.
He knows how to silver tongue his way through what he wants, but it also, as you see at the end, it's what gets him banished, and so it's just like, okay, what kind of, because he doesn't really lie a whole lot. He just like bends
Oh,
the
Disney.
truth to make it. Well-
We'll touch on this later.
He bends the truth a whole lot to make it work for him.
We will talk about this later.
Yes, I know where you're going. I know where you're going. So, but he just, I mean, he's so determined to make things work his way that he just tries so hard. I just want to root for him. It's just like, oh, come on, Loki. No, but I really like the whole interaction, especially when they're all three together, with Odin, Thor, and Loki. I just, that balance, that family balance, you're just like, okay, here we go. But yeah, I just like the whole scene. Good fighting, good interactions, good play on words. And Mikey summed it up a whole lot, but yeah. And Odin, Clancy Brown, I mean, it's just so good. I love it.
It makes sense. He is he's a very good choice for his voice for Odin. I mean, Anthony Hopkins is great for his look and his presence. Unfortunately, Clancy couldn't be Odin in live action.
Yeah, that's
unfortunately. He doesn't have the right look for it, but he definitely has the right voice for it, and that's shown here.
And what the thing is about this whole animation sequence here is you get to see the different looks, the different smirks that Loki has as well. And you get to see that stance that Thor has, the big heroic stance. The animation is great in this sequence.
Yeah.
I loved it because you get the personality of these characters just in their facial expressions. And so well done. So well done. Good fight.
Yeah, I again gotta agree with a lot of the things you've both said. It's very enjoyable. I like the Loki a lot here. I think they've done a good job making him feel very Loki. Because if you don't feel Loki, then you're doing a really, really bad job, and you should
I want to
go
feel
home.
Loki.
Wow.
Wow. She also wants to feel Thor.
Hey, that wouldn't be a bad thing either. Come on. Really?
Nicole's Nicole's not against a team up against these two.
What can I say? I have a thing for Asgardians.
Wow, there you go. She can't be satisfied by a normal man. She needs a god to do it. There you go.
Of adamant.
there's standards to fill.
Nicole has a pelvis of adamantium and vibranium.
My God, that's pretty useful.
She can take it and she can give it.
Jesus. I'm not sure if I should say anything else.
Reference.
Yeah, certain references. A very enjoyable scene. I did enjoy it, and like I mentioned, I really did like the idea of the Isle of Silence. I don't know if that's a real thing in Thor mythology, but it sounds like it would be. As I mentioned, I like the black and whiteness to it all. I thought that was a good way to summarize what it was without the audio to it as well. Very, very cool. But we will move on to the last part. There is one problem I have with the scene where Odin talks about Jane, but I will talk about that when I get to it later on, because there is a bit of a hole something that someone should have done when they heard that, because he was there. But I'll talk about that later. We'll move on to the last part now. as we see Thor looking over the damage of Asgard and looking back over the Bifrost Bridge itself. And he's at this point now where he's convincing himself that he's needed on Earth, and his dad doesn't understand because he's in this conflict at present between him helping his people and helping his dad, because he wants to be the good son, but he knows the dangers that are on Earth, and he thinks only he can stop all the dangers. So he flies off back to Midgard, while the Enchantress Amora watches on with a not great look to her. This first time that we see her, she does change to have the much more iconic look of what the show gives her later on. This is easily the biggest change that I can remember off the top of my head that they make from this point, from these pilot-ish kind of episodes to the actual series. But she transports herself off to the Isle of Silence, which we've just seen. And we see Loki. He's found himself a chair as this weird, creepy lizard kind of just crawls over his foot. And Loki is just sitting on this little tree log, thinking. And we have a flashback sequence. And we flash back basically to Loki persuading the frost giants that, these Asgard bastards, they want to kill you. They are building an army. They want you all dead. But me, if I was king, I wouldn't. I'd let you be happy. I'd leave you alone. I wouldn't attack you guys. And he's, surprise, surprise, the frost giants aren't the sharpest icicles on the mountains, shall we say. But Ymir, the giant king, goes, but what about the Thunderer? Which I thought was quite funny how he said that. And he's like, don't worry, I'll take care of my brother. Who's with me? So that's pretty much how he was able to convince the frost giants to attack Asgard. So that rounds up how he was able to get them on his side. We flash back to him sitting in his tree and him rubbing his chin, and then we get another flashback to what I assume is the inside of some kind of warehouse or something, where he is manipulating now the Wrecker crew, disguised as Jeffrey Combs. Yes, motherfucking Combs as the leader. As this is pre-broccoli-headed Jeffrey Combs, but. We will get to broccoli-headed Jeffrey Combs hopefully in the future. But as the leader, he basically tells them that there's a Stark shipment coming in, and you should go and get me a wobbly thing. And they're like, all right, boss, we'll get you your wobbly thing, being the gamma emitter. So we then cut to Thor standing on a ledge somewhere, probably a ledge that Spider-Man no doubt has sat upon, thinking about the world at some point or another, because that's what Spider-Man does. Surveying New York.
Out Spider-Man's scent?
Perhaps I'd prefer he's just...
that's really creepy. It's just like Spider-Man swinging through New York, meanwhile somewhere behind him, he's close. Oh. Thor, what are you doing? He's close.
You've been taking tips from Craven, haven't you, Thor? Jesus. But Thor's just chilling out, looking over New York. This is still a flashback, and he hears a lady going, "Help me, Thor! Help me! Oh, Lord, help
me with your broad shoulders and manly legs."
I was actually thinking more like, "Help, Thomas! Help, a mouse! So this lady, suspiciously all in green, guess who it is, basically tells him that, hey, there's an attack at the harbor and only you can save them. And Thor goes, fear not, fair maiden, or some woo-woo like that, and flies off. And guess who it is? It's the Enchantress. At least she keeps her motif of green going on throughout her disguises, though I notice her face isn't actually that different, but I suppose it's kind of explained a little bit later on. No, it's not just magic. It's explained when she makes a little floaty ball of mist that looks very much like the Chris McFeely picture that Cosmic Doug did for us a while ago.
The wizard.
The Grand Dictator, yeah, the wizard. It looks very much like that, and she goes, hey, the plan's been successful, and he's like, well, of course it has, my beautiful enchantress. Thor doesn't suspect a thing. Well, of course he wouldn't. He never. It was something like he never doesn't.
He always believes you.
He always believes you. Thank you. So that's how I work around the thing. It's like somehow she has this just power over this sexual goddess
They're
power.
called boobs.
They are called boobs.
Well, I mean, he's back to the comic books. He always, I mean, he pretty much grew up with her,
Yeah.
and he had a thing for her. The only thing he didn't have the thing for her, which ticked her off to
Yeah, that
no
she
ends.
fucking got pissed about that. She's
If
talking
I
about
can't have Thor, no one can have Thor.
talking about having a fucking hangover, a guy. Jesus Christ. That's what you call a crazy bitch. And that's proven as we go later on into the series. But yes, that is, as I take it, the reason why Thor didn't notice, because he probably recognizes it, but because it's Thor, he doesn't quite register it. So he's obviously flown off. And let's see. He also, then we see he is talking to Odin, saying, "Oh, yeah, Thor's becoming a bit of a prick on Earth. He's becoming very hella arrogant, and this kind of probably all stems from this love that he's got for this lady called Jane."
Had he even met her then?
No. Actually, no, I assumed that this probably took place after the Wrecking Crew incident. Maybe not too much further after it, or it happened canonically.
But Heimdall summoned them back to stop the frost giants.
I guess then it happened at the same time, because otherwise, yeah, it wouldn't have made much sense. Because Clancy obviously needed to know. The problem I mentioned earlier was Odin says that Balder, he specifically, I'm sure, says Balder says that you've got this affection for Jane, and the thing is, as we find out, the Balder did not tell Odin shit. It was actually Loki disguised as Balder. Oh, and Balder was in that room, so my issue was that Balder said, no, it didn't.
Maybe Baldur's not the sharpest tool in the shed.
I guess, but it's like Balder was being a prick. Like, he was going,
Mhm.
well, it wasn't me, but it can't be important.
Maybe he just wanted Thor gone so he could start sniffing up Sif.
It's a potential. I mean, I suppose it depends if
Or Volstagg.
It depends if. Oh wow, that's well, he is Volstagg the Voluptuous, and apparently he's named that for a reason.
Yes, you've told me that.
Yeah, wow, that was an interesting issue. Yeah, yeah. So maybe I don't know. You could argue that Balder was just not paying attention, and he was just thinking
You
about.
just look over to Baldur, he's looking off in the other direction.
I'd like to think he was just going, always we will find. It's a catchy song. Where's that song come from? I don't know. This guy called Deadpool told me about it. I like it. See, I'd say that's what Avengers is a horrible shame that Earth's Mightiest Heroes never got, and that's Deadpool, because I think Deadpool could make some really good jokes in this. Obviously,
Oh
don't.
my
He'll
gosh.
be in Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah, I'm sure he will be awful in that as well, but whatever. It would be great if Deadpool in that series went, wow, isn't this show really bad compared to Earth's Mightiest Heroes?
That would be awesome.
Actually get a laugh out of me.
He just turns around and looks at the camera. Yeah, I'd be watching Disney XD right now too. Oh wait, we are. Ah!
But yes, sorry, back on track. Where was I? Yes, Loki,
Boulder.
yeah, disguised as Balder, and he goes off and he goes, I'm evil, and now I'm Loki again. Wow, that was fantastic. Back on the Isle of Silence, the Enchantress appears with the Executioner Scourge, or Scourge, however you like to say it, and creates what I would guess I call a sound bubble, a magical bubble that I guess adds sound or dissipates the magic that stops sound from being produced on the island, or the isle, sorry, so they can talk. And she decides to mock Loki, as she does later on in the series as well, actually in season 2, where she says, did you miss hearing the sound of your own voice? And he goes, oh, how droll. I like that. That was fun. I like it when somebody says droll. She then basically tells him that the plan is working perfectly, and we've got nothing to worry about. And he's like, well, yeah, no one's ready for what comes next. Hilarity ensues, but not for them. People of Earth have bad stuff coming their way. But Nicole, do you want to give us your thoughts on this last section, the Loki plan? As this is literally Loki's episode, and what the entire episode has been about. And if you want, you can give us your final thoughts on the episode and a rating out of 10. If you
All right. All right. Well, first of all, the whole Isle of Silence when he's just sitting there in the black and white, I love that.
Mm.
Especially when they had that silent scream, and you're just like, oh wow, Loki can't talk. Like I was saying before, that's his number one weapon of choice is his mouth.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be hard for him. No, but the part that out of this seems probably weird coming from me, but the part that got to me in this whole sequence was when the Enchantress was conjuring up that green bubble.
Mm.
And she was talking to Loki. She had that look of complete sadness after she was done. Just like, because I think she still loves Thor so much.
She does.
She doesn't want to
And
do
she
this,
never
but
has that look again.
Well, that's shown later on in the season where she saves Thor from.
No, where she kidnaps him and says, "Do me, or I'll send you back to die."
Well, well, yeah, we don't actually know if that beam from Ultron would have killed him or not, I suppose. So
Well,
yeah, okay, I'll give you that. I would have said probably he wouldn't have died from that Ultron
No,
blast.
I don't know if he would have died or not, but that was basically her argument.
Oh yeah.
I saved your life. Now take off your pants. Your pants
Yeah.
are not off. I'll send you back.
Well, it's not that. It's just he said he would never take off his pants for her, which I think was more so the nail in the coffin. So rather than I'm not going to take my pants off right now, it's just I'm never going to take them off.
The problem was there was no nail in the coffin.
Ooh, she was the
waiting
coffin.
for hammer time.
She was.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Anyway, Nicole, go ahead. Yeah, I would agree that she still obviously has the hots for Thor.
I kind of felt really sorry for her at that point because she doesn't want to hurt Thor, but in a way she does, and she doesn't really want to side with Loki, as you know later on in the series. Basically, she just wants to kick his ass too, So she's the character that's really torn between what she really wants to do right now. She just wants to be part of Thor's life, even if it means going against him. I know that kind of sounds cheesy, but I feel sorry for her. But as for the flashbacks, I thought they were really well done. Loki, talking to the frost giants and Loki becoming bolder and also, morphing into the leader. I'm like, that's really cool, because
it works because that's what he is. He's essentially a shapeshifter,
yeah,
even more so than a wizard or sorcerer.
Yeah, and he knows how to play people so well, and I love that you get that sense. This episode's 22 minutes long,
yep,
and you get to the sense of who Thor and who Loki truly are, and what makes them great brothers and yet great enemies. And I just like those little flashbacks. They worked out so well. They're just like 2-minute sequence apiece, but you get to see how he plays everyone, and I loved it. It was awesome.
And this is why I mentioned that before that I didn't agree with you that his mouth is his greatest weakness, because everything went according to his plan. He ran his mouth deliberately so he would be exiled.
This is true.
Everything worked exactly how Loki wanted. Nothing was miscalculated or went awry.
That's true. But again, I love the end when they come back and he's still in that Isle of Silence, and things get a little bit more colorful, both in visual and in the tone, the language and stuff. That little laugh, I love it. Loki's laugh. And you could just see the Enchantress when he's doing that, just rolling her eyes like, oh, God.
No, of course.
No, I do like the interactions between the Enchantress and Loki as well. So, again, very well thought out, played, just almost done perfectly. This was only, I guess I'll just say my final thoughts. This was 22 minutes of almost a perfect story of how to get to know these characters. There's so much into this episode. It was just filled with honest to goodness greatness. I love it. Good storytelling from beginning to the end.
So what would you give it out of 10?
I'd probably give it a 9.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You must have
there's
liked
the
it.
only part I had a problem with was how easily Thor got up when he was fighting the frost giants, but then you just gotta think, he is a god. That's my only problem with this episode, but it's easily knocked away.
Fair, later on in the series, what was it? Valkyrie nearly gets sliced in half, and Hulk gets in the way, and he gets his sword into the back, and it does nothing.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like when you get into the heavy hitters, the frost giants, they're scary, but they ain't that scary.
Well, compared to the Hulk and Thor, at least.
Yeah, just like you could kind of imagine their whole day. It's just like we're winning. Is that a green guy and a blonde guy? Oh no.
That is one ugly ass ogre. Hulk, not ogre.
God, we had that moment too, didn't we?
I think we have something like that. I think the
The
orcs
well,
actually call him that.
the beast is strong,
Yeah.
but not strong enough.
But
Uh,
I could be a little biased because I do love Loki so much.
no, that's fine.
Yeah. I
Mikey.
thought they did a great
Oh,
job.
sorry. Mikey, what about yourself? What were your final thoughts on this episode, the scene we just saw, and obviously your rating out of 10, Monfrey?
This scene is when I really understood who we were dealing with.
You mean Loki is a villain?
Yeah, Loki. I expected him to be around a couple of times through the season when he during the fight scene. It's just like, oh, he'll show up, he'll be the Thor baddie, and I sort of got he controlled and manipulated everything,
Mm.
everything. There was nothing went wrong, nothing went awry. He accounted for every single variable. It's terrifying. That
I don't know about you, but I always found it hard to tell who was more intelligent between Doom and Loki, because Loki is incredibly good at manipulating, and
mm,
so is Doom. Doom always gets what he wants in the
Doom
end as well.
Doom, doom, doom.
Doom's arrogance takes a very different form, though. Loki's is
Yes,
self-defeating arrogance. Doom's arrogance is almost driving him to succeed.
yes, that's true. When
Hmm.
I've read them in the comics when they've worked together, it's looked like Doom has came out the lesser, but in fact, Doom has still won in a greater sense.
Mm.
I still want to find out why he was doing autopsies on many dead Loki carcasses.
Where do you get many dead Loki
I
carcasses?
don't know, but he was
Uh,
trying to figure out why Asgardians were immortal, and Loki provided Asgardians that were not going to be missed, and Doctor Doom basically performed a live autopsy on them, removing their heart and going, huh, well, they can live without this for a while. Let's make you a robot now.
Jesus.
I know, it was really well done. It was like, Jesus Christ,
Uh,
Doctor Doom's fucking crazy.
yeah,
He's
I,
great.
I do not cross Doctor Doom.
No, so that's why I always thought, like, I don't know who is more dangerous between the two of them, because to me, they are some of the top level
Mm,
Earthbound Marvel villains for
mm.
that reason alone. Sorry for
Yeah, they're
jumping in
just
there.
like mentally they are very, very bright
Yeah,
and very, very gone.
yeah,
But of course, the trickster element of it really comes across here because he just lied. He lied to everyone, manipulated everyone, made them do exactly what he wanted, and it just played so well. It is scary how well it came together.
mm,
So yeah, I just loved that. Yeah, and it just like this is the episode that makes the series. This is what this Loki storyline is about, and this episode has repercussions that are enormous,
oh yeah, definitely.
huge. Also, Jeffrey Combs, man,
Yeah, his
Jeffrey
first
Combs.
I know.
appearance technically.
Yep.
Until next week. Actually,
I
is
Yep.
he in
totally
next week?
forgot that
No,
he
no,
was
no.
in
He
this.
doesn't show up again
Gamma
until
Wolf.
Breakout.
Oh, is he in Breakout?
He's in
Okay.
Breakout.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, so that was fun. The episode itself, it's a very good introduction to the Asgardian mythology in Marvel.
Mhm.
It covers a lot of bases. You see most of the main Asgardian characters. I don't think you see Valkyrie, but
No,
Nope.
we only get to see her basically as a cameo in the last three-parter.
mm. But yeah, it all comes together very well. It's got, as I said, it's got huge repercussions, and again, it continues that theme of the everyone feeling like they're the only one fighting. They're the only one who can do what needs to be done.
Mm.
Just Iron Man ends with who else? Who you don't have to carry the world on your shoulders. Yes, I do. Who else is going to help me? Thor trying to decide whether he'll stay at home or go back to Earth. Well, who else can defend Earth but me?
Yeah.
It's it's that concept of these are individuals fighting. I think for some it's a case of there from their point of view there is no one else,
But
which
do
I
you
think.
think Thor had a hard time saying because he's thinking Earth is his only help? He needs to help Earth. But even Odin even said that he needed to be here on Asgard
Yeah, well, with that
for
one, it's like,
Thor.
oh, I need to leave home. But I think it's a case of feeling more needed,
Mm.
in a sense, because Thor can just every day Thor can do something that makes someone's life worth living. In Asgard, everyone's partying most of the time, and Thor doesn't strike as the partying type.
No.
He
Oh
sort
come
of
on, he would be so fun to party with.
no, 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 not that kind of party, Nicole. We can't show that kind of partying in the show.
No.
What are you thinking
Rein
I'm
it in,
talking
woman.
about?
Rein in your rampant libido. Um, just It's just a great introductory episode. I give it a very solid 8.
Oh, okay. Well, for me, I hella enjoy this episode. I think this was probably the first thing that started me down the road to enjoying Thor as much as I did. Obviously, from here I went on to watch Blood Brothers and the other things I've mentioned, and they all added on top of this lovely foundation that it had created. It's set up not just in the last episode. Gog, I think, mentioned, or Matt, or both of them mentioned that they laid out a world. I think it was Gog laid out a world that had been living there for a while. It was already a big place that you were being introduced to, and they did that again. But this time they did it with an entirely new realm. This time they did it with Asgard, which I think was a to do that in 2 episodes, one for one world, and then to do it again for a completely different world is really cool. We got to see mythical beasts in the Frost Giants, which was great. The last scene with Loki, as I mentioned, just proves how much of a badass he is. He's one of my favorite Marvel villains. I think probably one of my favorite villains of all time because he's so bad. He's so smart as well. He's got quite a good backstory to him as well, and I liked his design. The only issue I had with this episode was the look of Amora, which they later on changed because I know I'd mentioned it to you, Nicole, and you said yeah you weren't too fond of this original look until they updated her to what we know her
She,
to
she
be.
she looks more feminine later on.
Yes,
She's got a very squared off chin in this episode.
for me, she looked more like a background character. She was drawn very plainly, while later on she has, like you say, a bit more of a pronounced face, which defines her a bit more. In this episode, she definitely looks like someone who would just be a background cast character, like one of those police officers, for example. Um, and as Mikey said, this episode basically ripples throughout the rest of the season. What happens from this point on is what the rest of the season is because of what happens in the rest of the season, which is again a really smart way of doing it. Um, I personally, because of my love for Thor, it does make me a little bit biased, but I really enjoyed this episode a lot. There was a lot of action to it as well, which I enjoyed. So I'd give it a 9.5
Oh
personally.
wow.
Yeah, it's one of it is my favorite of the micro episodes. Specifically, not my favorite episode of the season, but out of the introduction to each of the individual heroes, it's easily my favorite.
I agree. That's probably my favorite too.
Yeah. Uh, does anyone
There's just
else have?
so much into the episode.
Well, it had to be because remember this was
Yeah.
technically 3 individual micro episodes, so they it was the same for the Iron Man episode. They jammed that pack full as well. So they did the same here as well. It didn't feel quite as disjointed, I would say, as the last one. Not that the first episode was very disjointed, but it definitely had the Tony Stark story, and then quickly went over to the Shield. This one very much felt like Thor was the main focus, and then a little bit more of Loki at the end, which I think worked out better. Does anybody else have anything else they want to say before we close this off, Mikey? Nicole?
Not really.
Oh, okay, there we go.
I love Asgardians.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't know what else to say. It was just a really good episode, and if you can't like this, you probably don't like Avengers. So.
Yeah, I would say that's probably true. And if you're a person that doesn't like Avengers, you need to go and start sucking on some sticks to make yourself learn what quality is, I would say.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because this is just a well-written show. But that's just my opinion. Anyway,
Take that, DC fanboys.
Thank you, Nicole. Well, yeah, I'm sorry you've got Young Justice, and that's not much of a competition. Thank you, Nicole, for joining us this week.
Thanks for having me.
People should know, again, at this point, where they can find you. So, but then again, why not drop more hints? Because, they should know.
Okay. All right. Well, you can find me on Twitter at BeatlesDiva. That's Beatles like the band, not the bug. I always have to say that. Go over to the nerdsphere.madnewsforum.com where you can find my main podcast, The Random Fandom, which I do with Miss Slick. I also do Fanboy Versus, which is a comic book podcast. So if you guys like your comic books, go check us out. We do it live every Sunday.
With that sexual man, JD Church.
Yes.
Still need to put that whipped cream on his head and that little cherry on the top.
Yeah, and we also have the brilliant mind of McFeely and the
brilliant
Spider-Man.
mind is debatable at this point, isn't it, Mikey?
I'm not commenting.
Your non-comment is comment enough.
And we also have Triple O there. He has to be the biggest Spider-Man fanboy out there, I swear.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that him constantly mentioning Spider-Man helped me pick up Spider-Man big time.
Yeah, so if you have any Spider-Man questions, go ask Triplet.
I'm scared too.
I also do the Rescue Center with Amy.
I know Amy.
Sister podcast, Underbase.
I know Amy.
Yeah, you know Amy. Everyone knows Amy. Lady Rec, she's awesome.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun recording. The things that you don't hear that goes, that doesn't go on the recording. Yeah.
Yeah, Nicole has mentioned before that Amy actually has a pretty foul mouth.
Oh, it's not that bad.
I like that. It's no. Well.
She hides it. She hides it beneath this air of, oh, I'm so nice.
It's just surprising when something foul does come out of her mouth. You're like, Amy. I love that woman. She's awesome. So, good. Go check me out.
Anything else then, or is that all the places that people can find you at?
Yeah, I love Asgardians.com. I don't know.
Oh, wow, that sounds like a Nicole site for Asgardian porn.
I don't know if it's real or not, but
I would not suggest trying to find it. Anyway, thank you again, Nicole, for joining us, and thank you, Mikey, as well.
Yeah,
Does this mean I'm officially the Loki fangirl? So anytime Loki's on, I'll be on.
Not guaranteed, but we shall see.
Ooh.
Although technically that would mean then that you want to be on for the last 3 episodes.
Yeah.
If we get up to that point, depending when Prime comes back, of course. But we'll see.
I love Loki.
There's no guarantee that you won't pop up again.
Yes. Unless I really sucked at this time around. And I apologize, people.
Well, you suck every time around, but who else is there?
I know.
I'm a dick. Thank you, Mikey, for joining us. It's good to actually have you on this technically your first episode of Master Avengers Theatre.
Yay! Slacker.
Yeah, next week is Mikey's episode. I'm not sure if I'll even bother getting a guest for next week's show. It's really hard to decide.
Lazy.
It's really hard to decide because Mikey, I'm sure, can talk some Hulk. I'm pretty goddamn sure he can talk some Hulk. But until next week, where Hulk will smash for the first time, we will see you later for some more superhero action. So remember, do not wear your super trunks too tight, otherwise you're going to probably cut off and kill all of your sperm. Unless you're a lady, then you're probably going to attract the wrong kind of guy, or the right kind of guy, depending on your type of man. So we will catch you next time for more Master Avengers action.
Thank you for tuning into this week's show. With your heroes, Old Snake, Cobra Commander TFW, and his sidekick, Shillelagh Lad, Mikey G. Wolfie 3. Remember,
tune in next week. Until then, have a pleasant evening.